Wonderful. Welcome back for our third episode of the Security Spotlight by Google. We are super excited to be here again. Your hosts today, myself, Marie Chidoli, and Roy D'Souza, of course. And we continue our focus on Chronicle enablement within Google Cloud Security. And with that, we have a special guest today, Rob Becker from our very own professional services. We have asked Rob to come out and talk to you guys about how we can orchestrate SIEM reference list updates for improved threat detection. There's a lot to be said on this, so I'm going to hold off for a moment on diving in. Before we get there, Roy, I'm going to give you a minute to say a few words.
Thank you, Marie. Welcome again, Rob, and welcome to all of you. Before we get into the good stuff, I wanted to take a moment to just mention something Marie and I have been extremely grateful and feeling humble for this past week is a lot of you have actually come to your third security spotlight. So this is your third event back to back that you have come to. That makes us feel extremely proud that you find this useful, and this gives us so much confidence to take this series forward. So thank you so much for your love and your support. And for those of you who are joining us, of course, for the first time, the Security Spotlight is a monthly recurring webcast that dives deep into the world of Google security operations. And you also get deep insights into this world from our own PSO, one of who is presenting today. So without further delay, Rob, why don't you tell us what you're presenting today and get right to it? Thank you.
Sure. So I'm Rob Becker. I'm the head of professional services for Google SecOps. I've been with Google now for about 2 years. I actually came to Google on the Simplify acquisition, call it 2 years ago. I got my start in security really 15, 20 years ago. Started really in identity and access management, working for a large bank, financial institute, really doing birthright access and auto levers. So it was a really neat way to start, understood the risk, understand GRC, understood automation. Then I took my role and kind of started into SOAR probably 4.5, 5 years ago now. So I've been working on the SOAR side for about 5 years, seeing all the different challenges, helping our customers implement SOAR in many different ways. Now we're in the SecOps world. Now we're talking SIEM, SOAR, and that whole platform. So today we're going to talk about how we're going to use reference lists and how we're going to automate reference lists using both components and really improve your threat detection at that point in time.
Nice. And what Rob forgot to mention is that we have worked together for about 5 years, and we have been through the ringer on a few different projects out there in the field, actually implementing mostly SOAR. We came from Simplify, but we have a deep bond over going through a lot of very challenging work together. So I'm so excited to actually have you on and speaking here at the Security Spotlight, because holy wow, this man has a lot of experience, and I don't think we would have gotten through a lot without you.
No, appreciate it. It's been fun. Really the watching the product grow, watching the team grow, watching the customers grow. It's been an awesome experience over the past 5 or so years. And just the technology itself, right? This is something 5 years ago, we didn't talk about SOAR that much. It was hard to find anybody who even knew what that acronym stood for. Now it's commonplace in almost every organization. So it's great to have a conversation with people who are really excited about it and want to use it more.
Isn't it remarkable when you go out and you say SOAR and you don't have to stop for a moment and say security, orchestration, automation, and response? People are like, oh, yes, Marie, I know exactly what you're talking about. We use X, Y, and Z. Exactly. It's been a fun 5 years, and I'm thrilled to hear more about how we are going to incorporate what is now Chronicle, into what it is we've been doing for a long time. Yeah. So we'll talk more about how we are going to use the now joint tool that is Chronicle. Couple quick housekeeping notes that I do want to mention. So as many of you may already know, you'll have access to this YouTube link at any point. So if you have to leave early or if you weren't able to make it right on time, have no fear. You'll be able to watch it later and share it with all of your favorite people. Any questions that you may have, please add them to the comments. We are going to do our best to get to everything. We try to keep any questions that we address directly relevant to the topic we're presenting on. If we do not get to one of your questions, but it was relevant, or even if it's not, please feel free to follow up in the community. We have a lot of great and very active members in the community, and we can get a lot of good information out of there. We have plenty of Googlers that are in there as well. And sometimes we'll even have Googlers responding within the comments here. They may not be labeled a Googler, but you may see some good responses in the actual chat on this live stream as well. That is what I had in store as far as housekeeping notes. I guess with that said, Rob, do you want to give us a quick introduction to the agenda, and then we can jump into your presentation?
Wonderful. Yeah. So we're going to start off talking really generally about what the challenges are. What are some of the common SIEM challenges we're facing, and how can we fix them? Talk about some of those components, one being reference lists. Let's talk about the challenges we have with those. Why is it not as simple as just using a reference list, and how we can fix it? Let's bring SOAR to the rescue and kind of do that. Once we kind of spend a little bit of time just going over the concepts, I'm going to hopefully spend a little bit more time demonstrating everything. We'll walk through the actual use case we talked about, how it works in the platform, and if everything goes well, it'll actually work. So we'll see.
Nice.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rob. That sounds awesome. Please go. Let's get right to it.
Let's do it. So there I am. We'll keep moving. So what's the problem? We're going to talk about the problem: false positives and analyst overload. Let's begin by addressing a familiar challenge in the world of SIEMs. While they're robust and sophisticated tools, they often produce a significant amount of noise. A classic example is triggered when a privileged user logs in from an unexpected location. This could be a signal of a security concern, but more often than not, it's just a globe-trotting executive causing our systems to raise an eyebrow. Manually reviewing these alerts is really time-consuming. It not only diverts our analysts' attention, but also could delay the response to the actual threats. It's a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is also sending you false alarms. So let's explore a common YARA-L rule that's designed to detect unusual login patterns. This rule aims to identify multiple logins from different locations using Chronicle's geo-IP enrichment. And I really got to say, it's pretty awesome that these enrichments happen automatically. Now let's take a second to break down the key components of this rule to understand its inner workings and why it may be a poor rule. The events section outlines the criteria for the event filtering. In this case, it targets successful user login events, and using geo-IP enrichment, it assigns the country and state variables. The match section lists the variables the events are grouped by and a time period. This rule looks for the same user who's logged in from the same product within a 1-hour window. The outcome section, that's used to capture additional information that can be used for the analyst in their investigation. The risk score variable is special here because it'll actually be shown in the insights for that alert. And finally, we have the condition. The condition logic here states that a detection will only trigger if there are more than one event from a different country or the same country and different states are seen within that window of 60 minutes. And here's our problem. This rule is just way too rigid. What about that approved travel somebody's going on? What about executive schedules? What about all of the people moving around the country? This rule really lacks the nuance to avoid those false alarms and waste the analyst's time. Okay, so let's talk SIEM reference lists. Time to introduce a lifesaver, reference lists. They let you store things like approved traveler lists, known IP addresses, benign URLs, anything you really want to trigger an alert on, or possibly things you don't want to trigger an alert on. Reference lists come in 3 flavors. We have string lists that are good for simple, direct strings, right? Things for like names, domains, URLs. Regular expressions, this is where you can get fancy. They handle those complex matching patterns. You might want to match against a process name. And then CIDR lists, those are perfectly suited for your ranges of IP addresses. So let's consider a simple use case for reference lists. Imagine you have a list of job titles with privileged access. This list can be used to filter in your rules. For instance, a rule could be configured to only alert when a user title matches one of those privileged titles in your list. It's much more targeted of alert, much more specific. For addressing our frequent traveler challenge, we'll create a string type reference list named Workforce Travel User Exclusions. This list will catalog the email addresses of traveling users alongside their destination countries. Since SIEM reference lists support 2-column entries, we'll use a pipe character to neatly separate the two values. Think of this as a simple yet effective way of saying, this user is on official travel to this country. No alarms, please. Now, let's refine the YARA-L rule to account for those traveling users. This involves a little bit of crafty engineering. We'll start by creating a variable called exclude user. The variable is a join of the user's email address and their geolocation country, all converted to lowercase. Next, we'll take that string and we'll perform a negative string match against that reference list. And that really tells our rule, if this user's on a business trip, let's not bother the SOC with alerts. Great. All right, so now we've tailored the alert to focus on the users with privileged titles, and we have put in a system to ignore our globe-trotting colleagues, but we're not done yet. There's a catch. How do we maintain these lists, or this list? What happens next week when Sally, our HR director, she announces her trip to China? Who's going to go in and update that record? The solution is only as good as its most recent update. It's like having a high-tech security system, but forgetting to set the alarm when you leave on vacation. This is where Chronicle SOAR truly shines. It's not just about updating reference lists. It's about bringing precision and efficiency to the process. With SOAR, we minimize the human error and allow our SOC analysts to focus on more complex tasks. Today's solution is going to center around leveraging automation and orchestration in Chronicle SOAR to manage a SIEM reference list. The process kicks off when a frequent traveler logs a notification event in Chronicle SOAR. Once SOAR receives a travel notification, complete with details like its email address, travel dates, and the destination, it springs into action. It creates a case within Chronicle SecOps, attaching a playbook to enrich the user's profile. The magic happens when the user's journey begins. Their email and their destination country are added to the workforce users exclusions list in SIEM. This is our way of saying, all right, hold the alerts, the traveler's on our radar. Once that trip concludes, though, SOAR efficiently removes the user from the list, ensuring our alert system is always up to date. Before we dive deeper into this process, let's discuss how travel notifications could reach Chronicle. Every organization has its own way of tracking travel for privileged users. Some may use a specialized calendar, other a ticketing system. It could also be a shared email address that's monitored. All these could be event sources within Chronicle. In our scenario, though, we're going to use Chronicle's request feature. It allows the users to fill out a form, triggering the necessary automation behind the scenes. Upon submission, a case is created in SecOps with the user's travel details as the event. Users can easily initiate travel notifications via the Your Workdesk interface. By selecting the Request tab, users are presented with an option to create a new request. Your Workdesk also keeps things organized. Users can track their submitted requests right from the same menu. Once it's submitted, that request becomes a case within Chronicle. The cases are easily identifiable by the R in the upper right-hand corner of the view. It's a simple but effective way to distinguish these travel-related cases from other types of incidents or alerts. All right, before we dive into the playbooks managing the reference list, let's examine some of the other key components of the solution. The general use case is pretty straightforward. Add or remove users from a list based on their travel schedules. But what about travel plans in the future? We need to ensure users are only added to this list during their actual travel period, and they have to be removed when their journey is over. So to manage this, we use two components. When the travel case is created, a SOAR user entity is enriched with travel details. the start date, the end date, and the destination. These details provide a reference point for syncing the process, within the solution. The second component in our solution is the SOAR custom list. This list serves as the central record for tracking all users managed by the solution. Once a user's entity has been enriched with their travel details, they're added to this list. From here, their travel status is managed. Now, let's turn our attention to the playbooks that actually automate this entire operation. The first playbook in line is the traveler request. It's a streamlined two-step process. The initial step involves attaching a block. The block takes care of enriching the user entity with travel details and adding them to the travel user list. I'll show the block in the next slide. Once this block completes, it returns to the playbook and closes the alerts. The travel request is now basically complete. So the add user to travel list block is really where all the action happens with the travel request. The block takes in 4 inputs. It has a user email address, a travel start date, a travel end date, and a destination country. It begins by first enriching that user with the travel data and adding them to the travel users list. Then it checks to see if the traveler is traveling today. If it is, we're going to actually format that string, that pipe delimited string, and we're going to update that reference list directly with that data. The synchronization between the SOAR lists and the SIEM list, though, is handled through a scheduled case and a playbook. The case is generated every day at 12:01 a.m. using the cron schedule connector. The daily playbook's first step is to gather all the users from that travel users list in SOAR, and it's going to create the corresponding user entities. Those entities are then enriched with that travel information, and then they're grouped into 2 groups. One group for users who are starting their travel today, and others who their travel ended yesterday. Users who had their travel added or starting today are added to that traveler users exclusion list, while those who are finishing their travel, they're removed from that SIEM list, and they're also removed from that SOAR list, so they're no longer managed. So what happens if a user forgets to submit their travel notification? Well, the SOC's going to get an alert that could be from somebody who's on legitimate travel. Well, thankfully, this is a pretty easy thing to manage. In these situations, the analyst can respond to a few prompts, allowing them to add the user in question to the exception list with minimal fuss. This simple playbook modification not only saves the time, but also ensures the whole system remains accurate and up to date, even when faced with unexpected scenarios. And with that, we're going to go into a demo. I think we have a comment from Roy, possibly. Or not.
Hey, Rob. Actually, usually I know we keep questions until the end, but we had one in chat that might be directly relevant to what you were just outlining.
Yeah.
So it was a request to discuss current limitations of multi-column string reference lists. Single column work fine, but multi-column pipe separated don't seem to work, especially when fields are empty or null. Is that something that you think would be relevant to address now or to discuss now, or would you prefer we hold it until the end?
I'll have to check on that part about it not working where fields are empty or null. And my guess is that's the question where like a UDM field is not fully filled in and that's not going to match against it would be a thought of the question. I did look into that a little more deep, closer to get a valid answer, but possible.
Cool. Okay, thanks so much.
All right, so let's do a little demo then. Let's show how this is actually going to work or how this process actually functions. So right here, you just have a typical cases, the cases tab within Chronicle. There's no cases here right now, so we're going to go through and we're going to submit a request to actually do some travel. So we're going to create a new request, and we're going to do Henry. No, let's do myself. Rob. We're going to start some travel today, and I'll end my travel on the 3rd. Where should I go? We'll go to the United Kingdom. All right, so with that request filled out, we now have in the background this travel request. So we can go look to see what's going on by clicking on the case that actually is linked to it. So in the travel request, we have myself, the user. We have a playbook that gets attached, the simple little playbook, 2 steps. We have the block, we have the close alert. If we look at myself, the user, we should see some information like it's been enriched. So we should be able to go down and see some information. Yep, travel start date, travel end date, and travel in progress is true. So that says I'm already in progress and I'm already traveling. Now, what should have happened, since today was the start date, I should be added to that exclusions list in SIEM. I should be added that SOAR list as well. So let's go look at both those. First, let's go to the SIEM list. Under detections and lists, we can see all of the configured SIEM reference lists. There's 4 in the system at this time. We'll look at the last one because that's the one for the travel users exclusions. And here we have 3 rows already filled out. We've got Robert Martin, who's on travel, Dennis Walker's on travel, and myself. We got a little information about how this is formatted, with the pipe delimiter, and so on and so forth. So this is the list that I got added to. Now let's go back and look at the SOAR list. So the SOAR list is under SOAR settings, and it's under environments and custom lists. So here we have 4 users that are in this list. Now, if you remember, on one side there was 3, and on this side there's 4. So what's wrong? What's missing? So my guess is one of these individuals are not on travel right now. So they're maybe starting today or tomorrow or whatever else, but they've submitted a request, so they're in the system. Let's look a little closer at the synchronization process we talked about, and then we'll dive into some of the details of the actual playbook. So the synchronization process to actually add the users is done through that schedule connector. So in SOAR, the schedule connector is set up through the ingestion tab in settings and connectors. Now under connectors, I pre-configured this connector, and this is a connector that's going to run every day at 12:01 a.m. and execute a just blanketed playbook, a blanketed case. It's not going to have any details on it. It's just going to have a alert type of travel users, an alert name of travel users daily sync. That's basically going to say, all right, we're going to create a case with just that details. So let's just update this time to 24, turn it on, save it. So if everything works, in about 20 seconds or 30 seconds, we should have a new case created to sync this process. While that's happening, let's look at the playbook that does the actual syncing. So under response, we're going to go to playbooks. And we're going to open up the workforce travel exclusions sync playbook. First step in this playbook is the first step is the trigger. We're going to trigger on those travel users alerts. That's the one we just saw in that connector. Then we're going to use the lists power up to get all the users from that travel users list. We're going to create, that's going to return a comma separated list of all of the individuals in that list. And then we're going to create the users from that. We're going to use the create entities with separator because this is a comma separated list of entities. And we're going to create those username entities out of that. So now we have a list in this case with all the users that are from that custom list. With those users there, we're going to use the enrichment action to enrich them with that destination country, travel start date, travel end date, and travel in progress attributes. So now we have the entities, we have them enriched. We need to get some information about today and tomorrow. So we get today's date and we get, yesterday and yesterday's date. The next step is going to be grouping those entities. So we'll use the entity selection to get all of the entities whose start date equals today and their travel is not in progress or is not true. So that's going to say if somebody has not been added to that list, if somebody is in progress, we don't want to re-add them to that list. And then we'll have a conditional, check to see if we have people to add. We need to use a little bit of fancy Jinja, a little bit of templating to really get this how we want it. Remember, it needs to be email address, type, location of the country. Well, if we have more than one, we need to have that in the right format for this Chronicle reference list input, which is just a string. So we use Jinja to do that. And it's a little bit challenging to see how this actually happens in this demo. But I create a JSON object with a key of entities, which is then the comma delimited list of all of the entity identifiers in the starting entities group. So I use this entities selection to only pick the ones that are in that started entity selection. That produces a comma delimited list. And then I also have a comma delimited list of the destination countries. That is the JSON object that Jinja is going to work against. So once I have those in an object, I need to split those on by a comma. So I take the entities, probably really hard to see, but you take the entities, you split them on comma, you take the locations, you split them on a comma, and now you have an actual list. So what the list does, it's going to zip the list together, take the first from the entities, the first from the location, add that pipe, and then add a comma, and keep doing that till you're done. So that creates that list of the things that need to be added to the SIEM reference list. It's a little challenging to figure out, but once you do it once, you don't have to do it again. Then we're going to do the exact same thing for the expired users. The same process, just looking for users who travel end date ended yesterday. Same process, check to see if we have users to remove, create that list, remove the users from Chronicle, remove the users, remove them from that travel user entity, from the travel users list, the SOAR list. And then finally, we're going to set them to travel in progress to false. So we're no longer traveling in progress. And we'll close the alert. So if that connector worked, we should see a case over here. Oop, that's not what I want to do. So here's the case that we just talked about, the one that got created. We have these 4 users that were from that list. If we want to step through the playbook a little bit and see what happened, let's just look to see who we added and removed. So we had Lauren Hill. She's starting. So she was that one that was on the SOAR list but was not in the SIEM list. And we've got under the expired Dennis Walker. So Dennis Walker's stop is no longer traveling. So let's just go validate this just to make sure everything happened as it was supposed to. So if we go to the SOAR list, excuse me, the SIEM list, one more try. We've got Laura Hill was added, and we had that other user was removed. So that worked exactly as expected. So now we should be able to see the exact same 3 users under source settings, under the list there, custom list, and there you go. You got 3 users. So it removed the one that expired, it added the one that you needed to add. All right, and the final, the last little part, what happens, we mentioned, if we actually have an alert for somebody that didn't report this travel. Made a mistake, right? It happens. Well, we have an alert. So the analyst now has this alert. They're like, what do we do with this alert? All right. We thankfully, first off, Chronicle SecOps, we have AI built in. So we get this great little summary of all the stuff that they should probably do and take a look into. But they came to the realization, all right, we need to do something. Well, the playbook that it gets attached has a question. This isn't very much an example. Do you want to add this person to the exception list? Yes, I do. So the analyst will come through and say, all right, we're going to add them to the exception list. It's going to ask me, when does the end date? So we need to know when to expire this. We know it's starting today. We know where they're going because they had a geolocation event of wherever they're going to. We just need to say when it's going to expire. And now that's going to go and it's going to attach that block we talked about earlier, that reusable block. It's going to go through and add that user to the exception list. So this alert, which was a false positive, will no longer be a false positive while this user is traveling on their actual travel. And with that, that's the solution. End-to-end management of the lists, keeping your solution, your travelers in check, making sure your false positives are reduced, allowing your analysts to really work on the things they need to work on, and spend the time where they need to spend the time, right? We don't need to be doing housekeeping every day. The whole idea here is to reduce the housekeeping efforts that you don't have to work. Let's track the hackers and stop the hackers. Simple as that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rob. I think this was extremely powerful as well in extending the functionality of Chronicle SIEM. And thank you so much for the demo that you showed us to show how that magic happens. We're going to segue into a few questions that we have from the audience here. There is one that asks, is the multi-column reference list focus more on data matching? Can it be used also for entity context or entity enrichment?
So it can be used to match against entity enrichment and context, but it can't be used to supplement it at that point in time. So more based on matching data.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. And there's another one from Kyle here that asks, is there a write-up or any documentation on how to implement this?
Not yet, Kyle, but this is going to turn into a blog probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll be able to have all this published, and you'll be able to download the example playbooks and everything that goes with it. So give me a couple of weeks and you'll see it published.
Gotcha. We still have time to take more, so please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. But otherwise, Marie, I think we had some pre-submitted ones as well.
We have a few. Thanks so much. All right. So a few of our pre-submitted questions. Thank you for those of you that took a few minutes to add a question when you were registering. We do look at those. So we'll try to get through a couple of those. First question, defining TTL for reference list entries. Workarounds for going beyond the current limit of 5,000 rows in reference lists. Workarounds for storing and updating key and values in reference lists until the multi-column reference list is introduced. So I do believe that's most of what we covered in today's presentation.
Yeah, I mean, basically, this is what I kind of covered is one way to get around that until we have multi-column. So multi-column will be coming at some point. I know the feature is in the works, so expect a lot of this challenge, at least of that concatenating fields and everything part to go away. We'll still have some challenges with keeping these things synced, right? Which will still be part of it. But yeah, TTLs, another way, possibly a similar solution, right? Referencing some other tool, then have that TTL and monitor it. Very similar could be done with what I proposed today to allow expiring of different list items.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's see. We also have a question on if there is a free version of Chronicle SIEM or SOAR. I know for a very long time we had a community edition of SOAR, and it's our understanding that coming soon, I don't have a date around that.
It's still out there. Coming soon, there will be a full-on SecOps free community edition in the works. I don't have a release date on that right now, but there are currently a lot of gears turning to see how fast we can get that out to the community to actually play with Chronicle.
Awesome. I think that is a day that will excite many people. So hopefully we will get access to that soon, or at least an understanding of when to expect access, but we'll keep you posted.
Hey, maybe one of these next webinars we can highlight, hey, getting Chronicle SecOps into the community and
oh my gosh,
how to stand it up and go.
That would be a really exciting announcement, and I think everyone here would be super thrilled also. Alrighty, let's see here. As far as
Yeah, Marie, I think we did have a request on chat to go back to an earlier question, because I think maybe they wanted to re-ask that. So Rob, if you don't mind, there was a question from Shahid here, and I think we briefly touched upon it while you were presenting, but I think the audience would like to go back to this one just to understand completely.
I think so. And that was kind of the question Marie asked earlier, but the one question I'm trying to understand is when the fields are empty or null. So my thought process here is it's some sort of UDM field that doesn't exist, and we're trying to then concatenate against. So there's no way to coalesce, which would be find something that's not there, right? So the easiest way to say that right now, I don't have an answer, is the easiest way to say that right now. If the field, it doesn't have a value to it and you're actually joining them together, I just unfortunately don't have a good option.
It's very useful for us though, and we will get back to you. All of those who asked this question, we'll make sure to get back to you once we have more info on this.
Cool.
But did we have any other questions, Marie? Pre-submitted?
Yeah. Also, quick follow-up note on that. Anything that we don't get to fully address here, please, please, please start a discussion in the community. And that's how we can prompt a lot of conversation and get more power behind digging in deeper on anything like this. So go ahead and get that submitted in the community, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of follow-up surrounding that. Thank you for posting the link. Alrighty, and then this is, a good general question. Prereqs for SIEM solutions on different cloud technologies. I'm going with prereqs for our SIEM solution in regards to different cloud technologies. So I rephrase that a little bit. How do you feel about that, Rob?
Well, I mean, we want to be able to monitor all different cloud offerings out there. We're not going to let Chronicle just be a Chronicle only, Google only solution. We have connectors for into Azure. We have connectors into AWS. We want to be as agnostic in that security solution as possible. So out of the box, let's put it that way.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely an important part in making sure we're able to monitor everything. I mean, we can't just lock it down to our products. So it's something that's important on our side as well. Okay, so another question we have is, will there be availability to add custom fields in the near future? And
so the question would be where the custom fields are, what part of custom fields, right? So they're, one thing we were talking about with the reference list, so multi-column fields will be coming with reference lists in the near future. So that'll be allowed to have different custom fields at that point in time to match against. Similar concept will be coming on the SOAR side. It's actually it's going to be a joint solution. And then custom fields when it comes to things like the UDM, and that's unfortunately, no, there are some opportunities there. I'm just, there's places, yes, I guess, and then some coming.
Cool. All right. This one's easy. Someone suggested that we can make a change to our future presentations by adding a do's and don'ts list to the end of our presentation. We have noted that, so I will try to incorporate that in the future. Thank you very much for the suggestion. I'm mentioning this because we do appreciate any suggestions like that as well. Alrighty. And then someone also asked ahead of time if we have any free trainings. So we do have the Cloud Boost Learning Path. I am going to drop a link in the chat with that information. We have a few online courses that you guys as practitioners can go through just to upskill yourselves, especially if you're someone that's newer or just looking for some foundational information. We have a lot of really good information out there. Some of it does go beyond foundational information, and we are continuously adding new content. So check it out. And then let's see here. As far as any other questions, we have one more, which is any noticeable performance reduction using reference lists instead of hard coding checks with ands or using a single regular expression directly in YARA-L?
So not specifically, not much that should be noticeable, let's put it that way. But the way the matching and how the reference list solution is developed in the back end, it's all memory based, and it's kind of it's built into the tool to be really, really fast. It's one of Chronicle's key features, right? We want to be able to take in a lot of data, be able to search it fast, and be able to make decisions on it fast. So with its current limitations, there's really no performance impacts by using those and having them full of their actual list items.
Cool.
Cool. I think we have time for one more question, Marie, because there's one last one that came from chat.
Yeah, let's go with Alex's question.
So Alex asks, how about a feature to upload CSV files as a reference list? Is that something we have today, Rob, or is that something in the pipeline?
And I think I just saw the next question is popping up as well, which is going to be a sample script for uploading via API. So there is a blog coming out that's going to include that using this new reference list APIs and how to upload different things, similar to what's happening on the SOAR solution, but again, just on a scripted basis. Right now, there's no feature to upload a CSV, but the same kind of solution could be used to upload a CSV with a Python script. So I expect a blog. I saw the draft of it 2 days ago, so that will be coming out really shortly as well, talking about Python and these reference list APIs.
Awesome. And for anyone that's curious of where to find this information, again, any of these blogs that Rob is referencing, anything along those lines, everything is available in the community. Also, one unrelated note, when Rob was giving the demo, you mentioned Jinja. So I wanted to mention, we have a lot of really cool power-up tools that I'm guessing most of, or if not all of, were created by Rob a while back.
85%.
85%. I mean, I think that's a large percentage. But I remember when they came out, Rob has been hands-on with our products for a very, very long time and understood where we saw some gaps or challenges. And he was able to then take that knowledge and create a solution to bridge those gaps. And it's something that we're constantly working on. And that's how we end up improving our products. So that's in part why we always appreciate everyone's feedback. Please share your comments, your thoughts, everything within the community. We do make sure we address all comments, and we take them very seriously so that we can continue making progress in what we're able to deliver to you guys. Cool. With that, anything else, guys? I think that pretty much sums up what we've got for today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Rob. I think that sums it up. I think another point in enablement and the self-serve content that Marie spoke about, she shared the Cloud Skills Boost. We also do have partner enablement bootcamps where professionals from our PSO, such as Rob, will be there live in person to give you more knowledge and more information. So I would also check in with your channel sales reps and any other contacts that you would have in Google to find out which ones are coming closest to you and sign up if you have the opportunity. But I think with that, Marie, Rob, it was a great show. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. And any community events that we do have available, again, always posted on the community events page, where you can also find access to any of our upcoming sessions. We do try to get an update out for our next security spotlight. And final note, we will not have a security spotlight next month. It is coming up pretty close to next. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up, but we'll be back to you in April. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good one.